I'm an au pair in Paris. I've been that for... Oh, there's a fly. Go away. I've been that since September, so September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. I'm an au pair in Paris, and I've been that for 8 months. People are very curious, and I'll try to do my best of responding to all of the questions you have, but please let me know if there's anything I don't touch on. I wrote down stuff. Wait, this is so funny. So it's my notebook and I just like draw and write stuff in here. And I was just like looking for the page where I've written like all of the questions for today. There's just this page where I've like done nothing. I've just written, I want to listen to Christmas songs and eat goat cheese. I have no idea when I wrote this, but that's kind of funny. Before I became an au pair, I hadn't worked with kids ever. It's not a requirement that you have any experience. I can only talk from my own perspective and from being an au pair, but having talked with a few families before finding the final family, I would say that for a lot of parents, it's more about your character as a person rather than your actual experience. If you have to work with like babies, I think a lot of people want you to have like some level of experience, but also like even parents have no experience before becoming parents, so like you can learn quite easily to take care of kids. I think before applying to become an au pair, it's important that you think about what your motivations are. What are you expecting to experience? For me, I didn't have a lot of those thoughts before going into it, but I think it's important that you do think about it because I don't believe that it's for everyone. And before applying to become an au pair, you should be aware that it's a lot of responsibility, it's a lot of boring hours, it can be extremely intense at points. You get very, very close with the family you work for, so it's not like a normal employer-employee relationship. Like the boundaries are kind of washed out and you have to be able to handle that. So I wouldn't say that it's just something you can do like that. I would say it's important to think about your own expectations and your own boundaries and if au pairing would be something for you before going into that. But once you've had those thoughts and you're like, yes, I want to do it, there are a lot of options for how you can find families. I know a lot of people who knew someone and got a job through them. Maybe you have a friend who's been somewhere where you want to go and they have contacts, or even the family they used to work for, they could set you up. Some people do it that way, but not everyone have the privilege of doing that. And for that, there are a lot of platforms. I know like on Facebook you can find like so many groups of people looking for au pairs and au pairs looking for jobs. There are also like specific platforms made for it. I personally used Au Pair World, which is like chill. Like it's cool. It's not amazing. It just provides a platform for you to kind of easily set up a profile, describe yourself, and then kind of easily also look at families. But I will say it's not easy. You don't just get an au pair job like that. And especially if you want to go to Paris, because every bitch and her mom wants to go to Paris. So you have to reach out. Like you really have to go at it with those applications. You can't just apply for like 3 families and think we're safe. I think I texted like 60 families. Not only in Paris though, but I did text like 60 families. So I was stuck on a boat in the middle of the Caribbean when I was applying. So I had kind of a hard time being quick and responding quickly. But because I also was out kind of last minute, the families kind of wanted to get everything settled really quickly. So I had to like be on it. I had to be at my phone. I had to be available for like FaceTime calls and so on. And a lot of families do want to like do a FaceTime call before signing anything, before committing to anything, to just like feel your vibe or whatever. And I think I did FaceTime calls with like 5 families. So the family I ended up with, we had like a FaceTime call. They were very busy, stuff was going on, life with kids, I guess. and they asked me like, what are your other options? Are you available? Like, are you about to commit to anyone? And at this point, I had actually committed to 2 people that kind of last minute flaked on me and were like, we found someone else. And like, I didn't want to go through that again, so I told them quite honestly that I will keep. There's like a fly going on here, it's really annoying. But I told them I'll keep my options open, but I will not close off anything if you decide that you then want me. So I gave them 24 hours. I was like, I'm not gonna say yes to anyone else in 24 hours, but I'm also not gonna like say that I'm committed to you. And then they were like, perfect, we need to talk to 2 other girls and then we'll like call you back. And I think like an hour went by and they texted me and they were like, are you still available? So it was like really quick. This fucking fly, fuck off. I don't know what to do about that, but it was really quickly, and then I ended up here. I think it's important to keep in mind that for you, you're looking at a lot of families and you're looking at where they live, how many kids they have, what the schedule will be like. You're looking at a lot of specific stuff, but for them, what they're looking at, they're just looking at a lot of profiles with young people who want to come live somewhere and who are like, I'm very nice and friendly and good with kids. And I thought, for me, I didn't want my profile to be just plain like that. I didn't want to just play the perfect girl. So I was kind of blunt in my profile about that. My motivation for applying to be an au pair was not that I fucking love kids. I wanted to go live in another country than my home country, and I just saw au pairing as a great opportunity. So I also needed them to respect that, yes, I am your au pair, but I'm also a young person wanting to experience the culture and the life in the place where I end up. And actually, a lot of families responded very positively to that. Like, they thought it was very nice and refreshing that, of course, they can depend on me and of course, they can trust me with their kids. But I do have my own life. And they were like actually really happy to hear that, because it kind of, I think it made my profile feel more real and more honest. So they could also expect that then the stuff I was writing about how motivated I was and how my work experience was and so on, they could also trust that more because they knew that I was being honest on my profile. So my specific situation is that I arrived in September and my contract is until the summer, but it's like undetermined when exactly I'll leave. And I look after 3 kids. The youngest is 9 and only speaks French. The middle one is 13 and has like a slight level of English. And the oldest is 15 and speaks okay English. So I do speak French mostly with them. And I'm very happy with this age group because they are old enough to understand responsibility and consequences, and also old enough that I could like go pick something up for 30 minutes and no one will die in the meantime. But they're still like young enough to just chill around and play. Like, I don't need to activate them all the time. And they're also not at an age where I don't feel like I have to raise them that much. So for me, that was actually a thing I was very aware of when I was looking for families, that I think I would get better along with a bit older kids than like very young kids where I have to discipline them and so on, because that's not my strong suit. And the deal I work on is that I'm expected to be available for 30 hours a week and I get paid 130 euros. But you have to like understand something about this. My 30 hours are kind of difficult for me to reach because I don't work mornings, I only work afternoons. So like 5 afternoons a week, it's kind of hard to make that up to 30 hours. So I do have a lot of late nights where the parents go out and I stay late, and that definitely takes away time from my opportunity to like go out with friends. But on the other hand, I have like the entire day to myself and I'm actually really happy about that. And the 130 euros can sound like a lot and it can sound like not very much depending on where you're coming from. But I know for a lot of au pairs, like the standard price that you can be expected to get paid is around 80 euros. So mine seems kind of high if you compare it to that. But I do think that in the end it adds up to almost the same, because I'm paying my own food, and that shit is expensive here. Even though I try to really be aware of like what I'm buying, where I'm buying, how often I'm buying stuff, it still adds up. Like, it's expensive to live here. They pay for my phone bill, but they don't pay for my transportation. And I know a lot of the girls who get 80 euros, they also get paid transportation, and transportation is really expensive too. But I do pay for my own food because I live in my own apartment. A lot of au pairs live in, which means that you have like a room, maybe your own bathroom if you're lucky, in the same house as the families. And this comes with some benefits, that you share a fridge, you can do whatever, but also I think boundaries can be kind of hard to keep up in that situation. And especially with younger kids, it will be difficult for them to understand when you're working and when you're not. So like, if you're on a contract that's counting hours, that can be kind of difficult in-house. But I have my own apartment, which they pay for. So I live like 5 minutes walk from the actual house where the family is. And to me, this is like, I don't think I could have done it any other way, because there is so much freedom in being able to leave your job, because it is a job, but it's also hard to treat it as a job because you're so involved in family life. But for me to have that boundary of, I'm leaving my work now and I can go home and relax, that is like everything. And also no one is aware at what hour I'm coming home, who I'm bringing back, like no one is watching me, and that's very nice to me. The language is tough. I did have a bit of French before coming here, but like not at all enough to keep up. And I do speak French with the youngest one exclusively, and it's tough. Like, it takes a lot of energy, and if I've been at work for like 10 hours, I'm completely exhausted afterwards, because it is hard to work in a language that you don't fully understand. But it's also very giving. Like, I'm so fortunate to be here and to have a French-speaking person, in this instance a kid, but a French-speaking person that I'm hanging out with all the time. Like, that is giving me so much compared to people I know who maybe work at a cafe where you do like a bit of formalities in French and so on, but I have like full-on conversations every day with this kid. So my language is like, it's really growing. It's insane. I actually think like talking with a kid is one of the best ways to learn a new language, because the level is not that high, but they do have that like natural ability of talking. And I also do homework with him, and it's so funny, like he's learning a lot of French grammar and I have to learn the same shit, so we're kind of in it together. It's really cute. For me, the work is not that extensive. I'm mostly there to help the youngest one with homework, and then just be like an authority and also like safety. So if anything goes wrong, I'm there. If the kids need help with anything, I'm there. But I'm not like on them. I'm not very responsible for raising them, and for me, that's really nice. That's very different how you want to do that. That's very different how parents want to do that. But for me, I feel like I'm in kind of one of the easier au pair jobs that you could find out there. And it's working out amazingly for me, but I know that I'm very privileged, and this is not what you can expect from all situations. It is weird to be that authority figure in random kids' life. I feel like there is a lot of eyes on me and how I behave and how I dress, especially working with two young teenage girls. I feel like I have to be aware of that impact that I can have on them, but I also want to like just be their friend and not give a shit, and I'm trying to like balance that out, like being myself but also being responsible. And some days I want to kill all of them, and other days my heart is like bursting with how cute they are. So it is a tough job. You're so directly involved in these kids' life. It's also a very giving job because you do have a lot of fun and cute experiences, but I do think you have to be aware before applying as an au pair that it's emotionally draining. to be there for them. Kids can have so many problems, like bullying, eating disorders, problems with the parents. Like there can be so much shit that you can run into, and you have to be aware that there is like a possibility of a lot of emotional like drainage, and you have to like have an abundance of energy in order to not crash with this, because you really need to like be there, and the kids are first priority, so sometimes your own needs will have to be pushed back. And I know that not everyone is like capable of doing that, so you have to determine whether that's for you or not. I have been happy with my experience, but I have also been very aware that I have been very lucky, and I don't think that I would necessarily recommend au pairing just because I had a good experience, because I know that this is like 1 in 100 the experience that I'm having. I hear so many horror stories, and I know a lot of other people in Paris working as au pairs who've just had the worst stories. So I do feel really, really lucky, and I do really love my situation, but you cannot expect that. You have to be willing to settle for maybe less than what I have in order to be an au pair, because I don't think that my situation is necessarily what you can expect. Isolated, me as an individual, I think au pairing has been fun. And then of course it's an amazing opportunity to move somewhere and live somewhere and work somewhere without having to go through all of the stress of like finding your own apartment, finding a job, speaking the language. Like an au pair package is kind of like everything included. So it's really, really easy if it's your first time moving out of where you're from and wanting to live somewhere completely different. I would say that au pairing is a great opportunity to get here. I also know people who've like started as au pairs, found out after like 2 months that it wasn't for them, quit, and then found their own apartment, found their own job, but then they were here and it wasn't as scary anymore. It is a great gateway into society. And also being connected with a family, a local family, you can ask so many questions, you can learn so much stuff, you can get so much insight that you wouldn't necessarily achieve on your own that fast, at least. But I would say like just go for it. It's not that big of a deal. Protect yourself, definitely be aware of what you're getting yourself into, but then just go for it, and maybe you'll learn from it, maybe you'll grow from it, maybe it will be absolutely terrible, but then it's a good story to tell. So cheers to random shit.